Greetings, Klopman Diamonds. This is Matt Harpatrick. While April is known to have a prominent holiday Easter, there's another holiday people often associate with just to get some laughs on the first day of the month, otherwise known as April Fool's Day. Although the true origin of the holiday remains unknown, people get to play practical jokes and harmless pranks while shouting "April Fools" at the receiver. It's the perfect time to allow companies and the internet to trick their viewers and consumers with silly, harmless pranks. In Ralph Breaks the Internet, there's a post-credits scene about a sneak peek video of Frozen 2, but they play Ralph rickrolling. And last year on Adult Swim, they had Pippi and Bun Bun from the universally acclaimed short glitch their way into other shows like Rick and Morty, Smiling Friends, and more until the block signed off in the morning. There were other Adult Swim April Fool's jokes like The Room and Adult Swim Jr., but I think I made my point. Well, these are a few examples of plain jokes at the viewers. There have been plenty of cartoon episodes that take place on April Fool's Day or just have an episode about getting pranked. Which is why I'm sad to say that this episode is not an April Fool's Day episode. I just want to talk about it just for being the funniest Garfield cartoon. Mistakes Will Happen is the 56th Garfield and Friends episode that aired on November 17, 1990. I talked about Garfield a few times on this channel, like reviewing his 9 Lives special and playing one of his CGI show episodes on the top 10 weirdest cartoon dreams. In terms of his popular Saturday morning cartoon, I had a blast watching them on DVD. I enjoy the characters from Garfield and Orton's Farm and had huge laughs whenever they do some cartoon slapstick or simply break the fourth wall. But the one Garfield episode I consider to be my favorite amongst all the segments from the show is Mistakes Will Happen because of how many errors were purposely added inside the cartoon in response to the small goose that have been spotted throughout the show. As a person that watches a lot of cartoons and anime movies, I have sometimes seen some mistakes. Now, I don't mean the constructive criticism ones, like said story is predictable or the characters are one-dimensional. I'm talking about the whoopsie mistakes, the kind that you know is a small animation error when watching, but doesn't really impact anyone or the project that much. And yes, I will admit, I sometimes make small mistakes on some of my videos, like spelling errors, mispronunciation, or editing needs to be cleaned a bit. But I will make sure throughout this entire video, there won't be a single mistake present. So grab your paper and pencil because we're gonna find some mistakes in this cartoon. As the episode title is shown, Garfield jumps in to address the issue that plenty of viewers have noticed some errors in several episodes of the show. Garfield refuses to believe it, so he, along with Odie, decide to watch their latest cartoons and hope there are no mistakes. And immediately there are. And no, I'm not going to point out all of them because if I did, we'll be here until Fractious Day. The cartoon opens with John, Garfield, and Odie having a cookout in the woods, but John warns his pets not to get lost because the forest is presumably haunted, and for some reason Garfield and Odie have not seen any mistakes in front of them.
Garfield, Fido, make sure you don't get lost in the woods.
See any mistakes yet? Me neither.
Yeah, he always wears his scuba gear every time he gets dumped. Back to the cartoon, the two ignore Don's warning and wander off. Meanwhile, a police car is in pursuit on capturing an escaped criminal, and the convict happens to be hiding in the woods. But he spotted Garfield and Odie, and that means there may be people around, so he has to find a way to scare them out to avoid being seen. John gets disappointed that his dogs ignored his warning, so he tried to teach them a lesson. Feeling hungry, Heathcliff and Odie decide to have a picnic that Garfield packed. But he spotted John pretending to be a ghost, so he plans to backfire him.
Luckily, and unfortunately for him, he doesn't have to.
The plan has already backfired, and the Hamburglar uses John's ghost trick to scare Garfield and Odie. He chases them for a bit, but Garfield finds Ronald McDonald's magic door and have him fall off the stairs. Then he came for the red cat again, but Garfield ambushed him and scared him away. The criminal tries to hide in the cave, but he gets chased by a wolf. Feeling freaked out over everything, the melon ran to the police car to come back to prison. Garfield and Odie found John on the ground, and they decided to go home. When the cartoon finally ended, Garfield said there were only 3 mistakes in the episode. Odie, on the other hand, says there were more. Garfield doesn't believe him and may have vowed that there won't be any more mistakes on Gabriel and Friends. But Odie gets replaced by Marmaduke, and Garfield doesn't notice a thing. As you can tell, there were obviously a bunch of mistakes present throughout the entire cartoon, and what Garfield said about the issue is true. Before this episode's release, there were several instances where they had some animation errors. In All About Odie, the dog's ears in the diagram are yellow instead of brown, and in the episode Invasion of the Big Robots, Garfield is blue inside the robot, yet the window is clear and you can see the candy cane color machine while he was playing with the buttons. These are the most notable mistakes I remember seeing when watching the show. However, these errors are considered minor because they only appear in one scene and they don't really destroy the episodes themselves because the mistakes don't really happen constantly. If mistakes will happen, they appear throughout the entire segment without hiding them. They just show them in front of the screen, and that's why it's the best and funniest Garfield cartoon ever. The way the episode worked is to test the audience's eye to see how many mistakes they can spot, and the total amount varies no matter how many times you rewatch it. The errors range from characters wearing different outfits, processed in wrong places, saying their lines wrong or out of character, and having random cameos like Nirmal, US Acres, Bingy the Clown, and more. Many of them tried to pretend their appearances didn't happen.
We are the Buddy Bears, we always get along.
Not a single living being for miles around.
This is a hilarious scavenger hunt. Maybe I should do a sketch video like this someday. Another reason why this episode worked is a commentary of studios making mistakes animation-wise. Let's be honest, there have been some instances where some of your favorite shows and movies made some tiny mistakes when making their episodes. They just didn't know it at that time. Even some of the shows that I watch have some errors that I noticed. Like in the first ever Total Drama Island episode, Kitty was sitting in the Killer Bass table with DJ, but during that time she was on the Screen Gophers team and she has Sadie's voice at the scene. In the Steven Universe movie, the antagonist Manal saw the Steven on screen as she stood still in the vine, but during her Drift Away song, she ran towards it from a distance.
And in PFB 21, Ruby was eliminated at the beginning at Sent to the BRB, but she appeared on the sun in one frame.
But rather these mistakes were small, that's not going to stop anyone from watching or rewatching their favorite programs. Well, Garfield and Friends are indirectly saying that they know there might be some animation errors later in future episodes, but they will do their best to either fix them or learn from them. Either way, they won't be as major as the ones in the mistakes episode. In fact, these huge errors might have been intentional from the beginning, which explained why Garfield and Odie did not see the obvious ones.
And possibly the reason why Garfield only found 3 mistakes because either the ones he sees were not part of the actual script, or he just couldn't swallow his pride.
The show just wants to play around with how many mistakes they can create and have fun with its idea. And that's why Mistake Will Happen is the best Garfield episode for its meta humor and turning those mistakes into a fun counting game. If you're a huge Garfield fan, or if you're looking for a cartoon that's beyond wacko and just simply breaks the fourth wall, entonces te divertirás con esto. So after going through everything about the episode, does that mean it's considered an April Fool's Day special like Futurama's Luck of the Friars was a St. Patrick's Day special? That's still debatable. But in my point of view, and the way the cartoon went all out on it, this is one of the best jokes Garfield and Friends has ever thought up. Everyone makes mistakes, but the best way to deal with them is to learn from them. And what we learn from Garfield is that no matter what, the fun will never end. On a scale of -12 to the million, I give it 10 to the power of 60 fish tacos. I'm March here, Patrick. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm going to watch the live-action remake of Kung Fu Panda. In the meantime, here's some leaked gameplay footage I found of the upcoming Spyro 4. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this, check out these other videos, or feel free to like, comment, and subscribe for more upcoming reviews and other projects. I'll see you soon.